I should have known the second I saw Karen's shadow sliding across the fence that peace was officially canceled, like the universe had just flipped a switch and said, "Yeah, you're not getting a normal afternoon." The music was playing, burgers were sizzling, kids were shrieking in that happy, chaotic way only pool parties can create. And then she marched in like she was leading a raid. Clipboard under her arm, lips tight, eyes already judging. And I remember thinking, here we go. See, if you've never lived in an HOA neighborhood, it sounds harmless on paper. Tidy lawns, clean streets, property values protected, blah, blah, blah. But what nobody tells you is how quickly community standards can turn into someone's personal kingdom. And in our neighborhood, that kingdom had a queen, and her name was Karen. She wasn't always in my life. At first, she was just a rumor people spoke about in half-laughs at barbecues. "Oh, you'll meet her eventually," someone told me once, like they were warning me about a storm rolling in from the coast. Then the notes started showing up. Little printed reminders tucked into my mailbox. Trash cans out too long. Grass slightly uneven. A tire touching the curb like it had committed a misdemeanor. And then one day, I finally saw her. She was standing at the edge of my driveway, clipboard in hand, hair shellacked in a place like it could survive a hurricane. Didn't smile. Didn't wave. Just stared, wrote something down, and walked away. That was my introduction. Now here's the thing Karen never liked. I owned my place outright. Paid off. Deeded land. Which meant parts of my property, especially my backyard and pool, weren't under HOA control. That pool had been there before the HOA even existed. Legally speaking, it was mine. Completely. But logic doesn't matter much when someone's addicted to authority. And Karen? She didn't want order. She wanted control. My pool drove her crazy. I think it was the laughter, the music, the fact that people could gather somewhere she didn't control. She'd stand on the sidewalk filming like she was documenting a crime scene. Count chairs. Count cars. Once, I swear to God, she measured how far my bumper was from the curb with her own feet, like some kind of suburban detective. At first, I laughed it off. You kind of have to. Otherwise, you lose your mind. But over time, it stopped being funny. My sister stopped bringing her kids over as much. My mom started asking if I was sure everything was legal. Friends would lower their voices when they mentioned Karen, like she might materialize out of thin air if you said her name too loud. And that's when I realized this wasn't just annoying. It was intimidation. So I started documenting everything. Every letter, every fine, every weird late night notice taped to my door like a passive-aggressive ransom note. A lawyer buddy of mine told me once, paper trails win wars. So I built one, quietly. Then came the party. It was supposed to be simple. My nephew had just graduated, and after months of stress, I wanted one normal day. Sun blazing, pool sparkling, grill smoking, kids laughing. The kind of afternoon that reminds you why you work so hard in the first place. And for a little while it was perfect. Then Karen showed up. She didn't even knock. Just pushed through the gate like she owned oxygen. Conversations died mid-sentence. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Even the kids went quiet. She started barking about violations, unauthorized gatherings, community harmony, all the greatest hits. And I could feel every eye in the yard sliding toward me, waiting to see if I'd fold. But I didn't. I stayed calm, told her it was private property, showed her the deed. You could actually see the flicker in her eyes, that tiny crack where reality tried to break through. But people like Karen don't do self-doubt. They double down. So she did the most Karen thing imaginable. She called the cops. And man, when those red and blue lights hit the street, the whole party froze like someone had pressed pause on reality. Kids climbed out of the pool, dripping and wide-eyed. Music died. Conversations turned into whispers. Karen stood there, smiling like she'd just summoned dragon. I'll admit, even I felt that twist in my gut. Not fear, exactly, more like anticipation. Because I knew something she didn't. I had the truth on paper. The officers walked in calm, professional, scanning the yard. Karen launched into this theatrical monologue about violations and danger and community collapse like she was auditioning for courtroom TV. She even tried to say I was trespassing on my own property. I handed the officer my deed. He read it, looked at his partner, then looked at her. And I'll never forget the way his tone changed when he said, "Ma'am, this is his property." That moment, it was like watching a balloon deflate in real time. Her face, that iron certainty she always wore, just collapsed. But she still tried, threw out accusations about minors and safety and noise and anything she could grab out of thin air. The officer just sighed and said, "We enforce laws, not HOA bylaws." And then, "I swear this actually happened," someone in the crowd laughed. Soft at first, then louder, like tension finally cracking open. Karen stormed out, furious, muttering threats about taking it higher. And that should have been the end. But it wasn't. Because losing publicly? That broke something in her. The fines started pouring in after that. One after another. Bigger. Petty. Desperate. Thousands of dollars in violations that had no legal standing. And for a while, I'll be honest, it got heavy. My family felt it. My nephew once asked me if he'd gotten me in trouble just for having fun. That one stuck with me. That was the night I stopped playing defense. I laid every piece of paper across my kitchen table, letters, photos, timestamps, recordings, and realized something almost funny. Karen thought she was burying me, but she'd actually been building my case for me. So I sued. The courtroom was packed the day of the hearing. You could feel it. That weird electric tension when a private feud becomes public spectacle. Karen went first, of course. Dramatic. Passionate. Painted me like a neighborhood menace destroying civilization one pool noodle at a time. It was my turn. I didn't yell. Didn't grandstand. Just handed over the truth. The deed. The fines. The harassment. And then came the twist she never saw coming. A county records officer walked in and confirmed everything. On the record, my land, my pool, outside, HOA authority. Always had been. You could hear the air leave the room. Karen tried to protest, but it was over. The judge ruled in my favor. Fines overturned. HOA penalized, and Karen personally liable for harassment. Removed from the board right there in that courtroom. And here's the wild part. I didn't feel victorious. Not at first. I felt clear. Like someone had opened a window in a room that had been suffocating for months. After that, the neighborhood changed slowly, then all at once. People started coming back. Apologies at my door. Kids returning to the pool. Neighbors who used to avoid eye contact suddenly bringing pies and awkward smiles. And Karen? She didn't disappear. That would have been too clean. She just faded. I saw her one afternoon standing at the end of her driveway with that same clipboard, but it hung limp in her hand like it had lost its magic. No one stopped to talk. No one listened anymore. Turns out power built on fear has a really short shelf life, once people stop being afraid. A few weeks later, I threw another party. Bigger this time. Louder. Brighter. Not out of spite. Out of relief. String lights glowing, kids cannonballing, music rolling into the night. Real community. The kind you can't manufacture with bylaws. And at one point, I looked down the street and saw Karen ripping flyers off the community board like she was trying to tear reality back into the shape she preferred. But nobody followed her. Nobody cared. She'd become background noise. And that's when it hit me. This was never about a pool. It was about boundaries. About how easy it is for someone to convince you they have power over your life, if you let them. Karen thought control created respect. That fear made authority real. But respect isn't something you demand, it's something people give freely or not at all. And the truth is, I didn't win because I fought harder. I won because I stopped shrinking. Because once you stand your ground, calmly, clearly, without letting anger drive, bullies lose their leverage. They need your fear to survive. Take that away, and the whole illusion falls apart. So yeah, the pool's still there. The parties still happen. Kids still scream and splash like summer's the only thing that matters. And sometimes I catch myself sitting on the porch late at night, listening to the quiet and realizing how close I came to giving that up just to keep the peace. But peace built on surrender isn't peace. It's silence. And silence is exactly where people like Karen thrive. So now I gotta ask you, where do you draw that line? When does keeping the peace turn into letting someone walk all over you? And if you've ever had your own Karen, HOA nightmare, power-hungry neighbor, how did it end? I really want to hear those stories. Because if there's one thing this whole mess taught me, It's that standing up doesn't just change your life. Sometimes it wakes up everyone around you too.